Imagine waking up to the headlines blaring that more than $90 million in digital wealth did not simply disappear. It was purposefully obliterated in one of the most dramatic acts of cyber sabotage in recent memory. This was not a case of criminals making off with a windfall, but rather a calculated decision to destroy value on an unprecedented scale. The culprit? A mysterious and highly skilled hacker collective known as Ganjeshke Darande, or Predatory Sparrow, who infiltrated Iran's largest crypto exchange, Nobitex, and left a crater where digital fortunes once stood. But as stunning as the headline is, the real story is far deeper, a story where technology, politics, and economics collide in a shadow war that is rewriting the rules of global finance. Why would anyone choose to incinerate such a fortune instead of pocketing it? And what does this mean for the future of money, trust, and conflict in our digital world? To grasp the magnitude of this event, let's rewind and trace the threads weaving together geopolitics and technology. For decades, Iran and Israel have been locked in an escalating struggle, sometimes in the open with missiles and tanks, but increasingly behind the veil of cyberspace. In this new era, lines of code have become as potent as military hardware. The infamous Stuxnet worm, designed over a decade ago by United States and Israeli intelligence, crippled Iran's uranium enrichment facilities and announced the arrival of cyber weapons as a tool of statecraft. In the years since, attacks have only grown more sophisticated and more brazen. Take, for example, the disruptive strikes against Iranian steel mills, gas stations, and transportation infrastructure, all allegedly orchestrated by Predatory Sparrow. Conversely, Iran has not been idle. Its cyber operatives are believed to have targeted Israeli water utilities, financial institutions, and power grids. This relentless tit-for-tat has blurred the boundaries between traditional warfare and digital conflict, making every network, every database, a potential battleground. Against this backdrop of sanctions, economic isolation, and ever-tightening restrictions, Iran's government and millions of its citizens have embraced cryptocurrency as both a lifeline and a loophole. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, Ripple, Solana, Tron, Toncoin, these digital assets have become more than speculative investments. For many Iranians, crypto is a desperately needed portal to the global financial system, a way to bypass the financial embargoes that have squeezed the country for years. Nobitex, founded just a few years ago, rapidly established itself as Iran's digital heartbeat, serving more than 11 million users and facilitating billions of dollars in transactions each year. But with great importance comes great risk. Nobitex's critical role in Iran's economy made it a magnet for both legitimate users and those seeking to circumvent international law. Reports have linked the exchange to wallets affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, as well as networks tied to groups like the Houthis and Hamas. Whether for ordinary citizens or for shadowy state actors, Nobitex became the main gateway for moving funds across borders, making it a bullseye in the ongoing cyber conflict. The attack itself was meticulously orchestrated, representing a new threshold in digital warfare. According to leading blockchain analysis firms such as Chainalysis and Elliptic, the hackers did not merely siphon funds for personal gain. Instead, they transferred stolen assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, Ripple, Solana, Tron, and Toncoin, into 8 so-called burn addresses. These are not just ordinary wallets, they are cryptographic black holes, each designed without a recoverable private key, and in this case, embedded with provocative anti-regime messages. Some addresses even included inflammatory phrases like Nobitex and explicit taunts against Iran's elite military forces. On Ethereum, the tokens were sent to the legendary 0xDead address, a digital graveyard that permanently removes assets from circulation. On Bitcoin, coins were sent to wallets that are mathematically unspendable due to invalid checksums. The scale of the destruction is breathtaking. Estimates of the total loss range from $81 million to more than $100 million, depending on whether you count indirect costs, market volatility, and lost confidence. For perspective, this sum is larger than the annual budgets of many small countries and could have funded thousands of small businesses or paid for critical medical supplies. Yet the goal was not enrichment, but sabotage. As Andrew Fearman of Chainalysis put it, this destructive attack shows how crypto infrastructure is becoming a new front in modern geopolitical conflict. The motive for stealing the funds is clearly political, not financial. Tom Robinson at Elliptic echoed this view. The hackers have burned the crypto they stole. This is an act of sabotage by attacking a financial institution pivotal in Iran's use of cryptocurrency to evade sanctions. But the consequences ripple far beyond lost coins and broken code. Nobitex was forced to suspend all operations, take its website offline, and issue urgent reassurances to its more than 11 million users. The exchange insisted that cold storage and reserve insurance funds would cover any user losses, and that staff had quickly emptied hot wallets to prevent further damage. Yet the sudden shutdown rocked the confidence of millions of Iranians. For many, Nobitex was not just an app, it was a lifeline in a time of economic hardship, inflation, and shrinking access to global banking. The Central Bank of Iran responded swiftly, imposing a strict operational curfew on all domestic crypto exchanges, limiting their hours from 10 in the morning to 8 in the evening, and signaling a crackdown on the entire sector. Meanwhile, the attackers were not finished. Predatory Sparrow boldly announced plans to release the internal source code and infrastructure data of Nobitex, further eroding the platform's security and potentially exposing user information. The message to users was unambiguous: withdraw your assets immediately or risk losing everything. This threat, combined with the destruction of funds, set off panic among everyday Iranians, many of whom had turned to crypto as their last hope against spiraling inflation and financial exclusion. Hamid Kashfi, a respected cybersecurity expert, warned, "Many are banking on crypto due to shrinking access to financial resources. There has been a lot of collateral damage, and it just seems to be straight up causing damage and chaos." Navin Gupta, CEO at Crystal, remarked, "Another large-scale exchange breach, and once again, the real victims are everyday users who entrusted their funds to the platform they believed was secure." Breaches rarely happen due to a single point of failure. It's often a combination of poor access control, lack of monitoring for internal movements, and delayed response protocols. For the Iranian government, this was more than an embarrassment. It was a wake-up call. Nobitex had been identified as a key tool for sanctions evasion, facilitating the majority of on-chain exchange activity originating from inside Iran. The government now faces twin pressures: to restore public trust and to tighten control over a technology that simultaneously empowers citizens and threatens state authority. Already, the central bank is signaling further restrictions. There are rumors of new licensing requirements, enhanced surveillance of crypto transactions, and even the creation of a state-run digital currency to replace private exchanges. But the implications stretch far beyond Iran's borders. The world watched in disbelief as more than $90 million in digital assets were deliberately burned, not lost, not stolen, but erased. International regulators such as the Financial Action Task Force are now considering stricter oversight of cryptocurrency exchanges worldwide. The fear? That crypto, once heralded as the great liberator from centralized control, could become a tool for rogue states and criminal networks to bypass sanctions and fund illicit activities. If regulators clamp down, the resulting rules could stifle some of the very freedoms and innovations that drew millions to crypto in the first place. The decentralized dream may be giving way to a much more regulated reality. Meanwhile, the risk of escalation is very real. Experts warn that this may only be the opening salvo in a much larger conflict. Iran, facing humiliation and real losses, could retaliate with its own cyberattacks, not just against Israeli targets, but potentially against Western banks, infrastructure, or even global crypto networks. Rob Joyce, a former NSA cybersecurity official, cautioned, "Disrupting the availability of this bank's funds or triggering a broader collapse of trust in Iranian banks could have major impacts there." The specter of a digital tit-for-tat looms large, one that could spill over into broader economic and even physical conflict. Ordinary people are paying the price. Inside Iran, the mood is anxious and angry. For millions who had turned to crypto as a hedge against inflation and a way to access the outside world, trust has been shattered. Social media is flooded with stories of families who lost their savings, small businesses unable to pay suppliers, and students unable to receive tuition from relatives abroad. The incident has exacerbated internal instability, with some predicting that continued attacks could lead to social unrest or even political upheaval if confidence in the government's ability to protect essential services crumbles. Yet, in every crisis, there is opportunity. The cybersecurity industry is already in overdrive, with firms racing to offer new protection tools for exchanges, wallets, and banks. Startups are developing advanced monitoring systems, multi-signature wallets, and decentralized insurance protocols to guard against future attacks. Governments, too, are rethinking their cyber strategies, both for defense and for offense. Iran is expected to pour resources into both shoring up its digital infrastructure and developing new capabilities to deter and punish adversaries. Some experts believe this could lead to an arms race in cyberspace, with nations around the world investing billions in both digital shields and digital swords. So what does all this mean for you, wherever you may be? First, it is a sobering reminder that the systems we depend on, whether for banking, investing, or simply sending money to a loved one, are deeply interconnected and, in many cases, vulnerable. Even if you never touch a cryptocurrency, your financial life is increasingly tied to networks that can be shaken by distant conflicts and invisible adversaries. The era when hackers targeted only obscure technical systems is over. Today, every consumer, every business, and every government is a potential target. This crisis also underscores a vital lesson. Security is everyone's responsibility. If you hold digital assets, be it Bitcoin, Ethereum, or even stablecoins, be cautious about where you store them. Relying on a single exchange, no matter how reputable, carries real risks. Diversify your holdings, use cold storage wallets whenever possible, enable two-factor authentication, and stay alert for news and updates from your providers. Consider learning more about best practices for digital self-custody, and never assume that any platform is immune to attack. Looking ahead, several scenarios are emerging. Iran may double down on regulation, introducing a state-backed digital currency and sharply curtailing the private crypto sector. Or it could seek to retaliate in cyberspace, targeting not only Israeli financial institutions, but also Western banks and crypto exchanges that facilitate cross-border flows. International bodies may step up enforcement, imposing tough new compliance rules on exchanges everywhere in a bid to choke off illicit activity. The global crypto industry could see a wave of mergers, closures, and increased insurance costs as a result. Some experts even speculate that the shock of the Nobitex hack could accelerate the shift toward decentralized finance, as users seek platforms that are less reliant on single points of failure and more resilient to targeted attacks. But perhaps the most profound lesson is this. Acts like these are not just about loss. They are messages, delivered in code and in code breaking. The burn addresses used by Predatory Sparrow were not simply digital trash cans. They were billboards, each one spelling out political taunts and daring the regime to respond. In this new era, wallets are not just storage units. They are weapons and propaganda tools. The world is witnessing the birth of a new language of conflict, one that is written not in treaties or speeches, but in hashes and hexadecimal. As Iran struggles to recover, its response may be a mix of crackdown and reinvention. We can expect new rules, tighter restrictions, and a government push for technological self-sufficiency. But the damage to trust, both in digital money and in the government's ability to protect it, may take years to repair. For the rest of the world, the lesson is urgent. As technology races ahead, so do new risks. The future of money, trust, and conflict is being written right now, not in dusty ledgers or marble halls, but on blockchains and behind closed firewalls. So, as the dust settles from the Nobitex hack, what happens next? Will this mark the beginning of an era of digital warfare, where nations strike at each other's economies with a few keystrokes? Or can the global community learn to build safer, more resilient financial systems before the next crisis hits? The choice, to some extent, is ours. But one thing is certain. The age of economic conflict has gone digital, and the stakes have never been higher. If you found this story eye-opening, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the world's most important tech and economic stories. What do you think? Is the age of digital warfare just beginning, or can we build a safer, fairer financial future together? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know which global tech story you want us to decode next. Until then, stay curious, stay critical, and remember, in a world where